Madam Chairman.
Could you sit down a minute?
First of all, I want to acknowledge the good work of the Chairman and Senator Cochran on this bill, and particularly what you have done with regards to the peer-reviewed medical research and an increase of a 5% overall increase in the funding for that. I think it's clear to all of us that we have seen progress in the research that has come, not nearly quick enough for those that are afflicted with many of these diseases, but you specifically note the effort in this year's bill to add a line for epilepsy, specifically noting what we are seeing with the relationship between those that are impacted by traumatic brain injury and the incidence of epilepsy and the seizures. And I applaud the Chairman for recognizing that and ensuring that not only epilepsy and other related diseases continue to be eligible for funding, but that in that case, there is a specific line for it. I want to talk briefly this morning about an area that I believe in our bill here in the Senate should also receive a specific line. Every year in the Defense Approps bill since 2009, in the list of conditions that are eligible for funding, we have included research for ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. The House has been much more aggressive in its support for research than we have here in the Senate. What we're doing here today, as the Chairman has noted, is we leave it to the Defense Department to decide how much to allocate for ALS research in this competitive process. The House, though, contains a specific line and an appropriations amount for ALS research. It's that line, then, that ends up being negotiated in conference. Again, I think that what we as Senate appropriators and specific to this bill need to consider is whether or not ALS should also receive a specific line, and that we should weigh in on the level at which it should be funded. I have an amendment which I would ask to be distributed that establishes a line in our bill for ALS research and funds it at $10 million for FY15. I think that this is a funding level that is appropriate to the challenges that we face with ALS. I do recognize that it is over the House number. It's $2.5 million over the House number, so it would ultimately be conferenced. But I also think that it is an amount that could be easily absorbed in the 5% increase that we are sponsoring here, we're proposing here for medical research. For those of you that have not been following what we're seeing with ALS and why I feel that ALS should have that specific line instead of being lumped with the other diseases that are subject to the competitive research, is the very strong nexus that we are seeing between ALS and military service. The statistics out there I find troubling, and I hope that you would agree with me when you learn that men and women who are serving in our U.S. military are 60% more likely than the civilian community to develop these fatal muscle wasting diseases like ALS. In 1990-91, the Gulf War veterans, that veteran population is 2 to 1 higher, twice as likely to develop ALS as the general population. We haven't been able to figure out what's the connector here, what is happening. But when you've got a 2 to 1 ratio, that should get our attention. It certainly has gotten the attention of the VA. They have regarded ALS as presumptively service-connected. They made this determination back in 2008. They provide for a minimum 100% disability rating for our vets that are diagnosed with ALS. So the Chairman has noted that the process that we have now allows for that competition. And I certainly appreciate that and think it's been important that ALS be allowed to be part of that competitive process. But because there appears to be such a nexus here with our veterans, with those who are serving in our military, I feel pretty strongly that this is one area that we might want to, as a committee, provide for that line item. And I would ask my colleagues for that consideration.